Built to turn heads and sell fast, these 7 Japanese trikes did the opposite. Buyers passed, inventory piled up, and now dealerships are practically giving them away. From oversized scooters to overbuilt tourers, these three-wheelers failed to find their place, and number 1 might be the strangest of all. Number 7. Yamaha Tricity 125. It has 3 wheels, a Japanese badge, and a factory design meant to change the way people ride in the city. But this isn't the kind of trike the average American cruiser fan would look twice at. The Tricity 125 was Yamaha's lightweight, entry-level answer to urban mobility. It offered stability, simplicity, and a unique leaning front end. But it didn't offer what American trike buyers actually want: muscle, presence, and a whole lot of attitude. At the center of this 3-wheeled scooter is a 125 cubic centimeter single-cylinder engine. It produces 11 horsepower and 8 pound-feet of torque. That's barely enough to get ahead of traffic, let alone cruise a highway. And for a trike that costs $4,899, that power output is a major problem. Riders who are used to V-twin torque and deep-throated exhaust notes don't want something that sounds like a sewing machine. The Tricity weighs just over 360 pounds, making it easy to move around at low speeds. But that featherweight build is part of the problem. Trike riders expect a machine that feels planted and confident, something with size and substance. The Tricity is so light and narrow that it looks like a toy in comparison to full-size cruiser conversions or even the heavier scooter trikes on the market. It may be built to handle, but it wasn't built to impress. Yamaha's pitch was simple: more front-end grip, easier cornering, and greater safety thanks to the dual front-wheel system. The Tricity leans like a motorcycle, but with the added stability of 2 contact patches up front. It's smart engineering, but it's not what older riders are looking for. This is a machine built for someone's first commute, not someone's 3rd decade on the road. The ride position also feels out of place. You sit high, with a step-through floorboard and narrow handlebars, just like a traditional scooter. There's no tank between your knees, no wide bars to lean on, and no classic cruiser layout that makes a bike feel like a machine. For riders used to touring bikes or stretched-out cruisers, this setup feels awkward and small. It's practical, sure, but it doesn't have any soul. And then there's the design. The Tricity is wrapped in plastic fairings with a tall front end and modern scooter styling. It doesn't look like a trike, it doesn't even look like a motorcycle, it looks like a medical mobility device in matte silver. Riders who grew up around Harley-Davidson baggers or even Japanese cruisers like the V-Star are going to look at the Tricity and wonder who it was actually made for. And with a 125 cubic centimeter engine that can barely handle a freeway on-ramp, it's simply not enough bike to carry the weight of 3 wheels. Yamaha later released a 300 cubic centimeter version for Europe, but that didn't change anything here. The Tricity 125 might technically count as a trike, but it doesn't deliver anything the average American rider wants. It's underpowered, overpriced for what it is, and completely disconnected from the cruiser spirit. That might technically be a trike, but the next one tried to bring full-size power and still missed the mark. Number 6. Suzuki Burgman 650 Trike. Built for comfort, loaded with convenience, and aimed at older riders seeking stress-free mobility, this trike had the right ingredients, at least on paper. It borrowed the ease of a maxi scooter with smooth power delivery, automatic transmission, and generous storage. And by adding 2 rear wheels, it promised greater stability for those less confident on 2 wheels. But once the Burgman 650 made the leap to trike form, it lost the charm that made the original popular. Scooter fans thought it was too big, cruiser fans thought it was too tame, and dealers, they just could not move them. At its heart sits a 638 cubic centimeter twin-cylinder engine. It puts out 55 horsepower and 44 pound-feet of torque. That power is delivered through a fully automatic, continuously variable transmission. No clutch, no shifting, just roll the throttle and go. For commuting or city cruising, that setup feels ideal. But once the trike conversion is added, the story changes fast. The additional weight and width make the ride feel sluggish and cumbersome, especially at low speeds. A typical Burgman tips the scales at 525 pounds, but with the Trike kit installed, often from a third-party company like Trinity or Towpack, that number climbs well past 700 pounds depending on the materials and axle design. That might not sound like much to a Goldwing rider, but for scooter buyers used to nimble handling, it feels enormous. The added weight slows down acceleration and dampens any sense of agility the Burgman had left. The once smooth ride becomes a stiff, awkward shuffle through corners. One of the main issues with this trike is who it's meant for. Scooter riders typically want something light, cheap, and easy to store. Cruiser riders, on the other hand, expect a certain level of noise, torque, and customization. The Burgman Trike gives you none of that. It's quiet, calm, and almost clinical in how it behaves on the road. There's no vibration, no bark, no rumble, just a soft whir as the transmission pulls through the gears. For riders used to a V-twin or even a single-cylinder cruiser, it feels sterile. Comfort features like the tall windscreen, large underseat storage compartment, and plush seat make the Burgman a great commuter. But when converted into a trike, it loses its biggest strength: maneuverability. Those wide rear axles, extra wheels, and rigid kits often eliminate the tilt function altogether. That means you're stuck with a flat three-point ride that doesn't lean or feel natural when turning. Add in the high center of gravity and suddenly, parking lots and tight U-turns become a challenge. The styling doesn't help its case either. The bodywork, originally designed to look sleek and aerodynamic, becomes clunky once the trike hardware is added. The narrow front end clashes visually with the bulky rear, and many riders say the finished bike looks more like a mobility scooter than a real motorcycle. And because it's a converted model, not factory-built, there are major variances in quality depending on who installed the kit. With a base price of $11,049 for the standard scooter and a trike conversion costing an additional $4,000 to $6,000, you're suddenly looking at a price tag close to $16,000. That puts it in direct competition with entry-level cruisers, used Harley-Davidson Sportsters, and even base touring bikes. Scooter comfort wasn't enough. The next one brought real engine muscle, yet still sat untouched. We dug through forums, dealer sheets, and resale data. So if this list saves you cash, hit like and subscribe and ride smarter. Number 5. Kawasaki Vulcan 1700 Voyager Trike. Packed with chrome, loaded with touring features, and built for the open road, this trike was supposed to offer the perfect blend of comfort and muscle for long-distance riders. Kawasaki's vision was clear: stability, power, and style wrapped into one three-wheeled package. But once the Voyager was converted, the appeal faded fast. It became too heavy for casual riders and too uninspiring for hardcore tourers. Dealers hoped it would compete with established trikes, but instead, it ended up sitting, unsold and overlooked. At its core is a 1,752 cubic centimeter V-twin engine that produces 75 horsepower and 91 pound-feet of torque. That's a respectable setup for touring, especially when paired with electronic cruise control, an integrated audio system, and a full-size touring trunk. But once this already heavy two-wheeler is converted into a trike using kits from brands like Motor Trike or Lehman, the total weight tips the scale to well over 1,100 pounds. And that's where the trouble starts. The added weight from the conversion takes a toll on performance. Acceleration becomes sluggish, braking distances increase, and cornering feels disconnected compared to traditional trikes that are purpose-built from the factory. Riders coming from Harley-Davidson's Tri-Glide or even the Road Glide CVO trike immediately notice the difference. The Voyager trike looks the part, but doesn't ride with the same confidence or balance. It sits low, but it feels top-heavy, and the rear axle, often solid and stiff, makes uneven roads feel rougher than they should be. Then there's the look. The stock Voyager is already a busy-looking bike with large fenders, body panels, and a full dash of switches and dials. Once converted into a trike, the rear end gets bulkier and more exaggerated. The result isn't always flattering. Some riders say it looks bloated, others say it's overdone. Either way, it doesn't have the flowing design language that cruiser fans typically love, especially those used to the clean, stretched lines of Harley-Davidson's three-wheel models. And we haven't even touched on ride feel. While the seating is wide and plush and the passenger area is generous, the overall ergonomics aren't ideal for all-day cruising. The rider triangle is tight for taller riders, and the leg position can feel cramped due to the engine's width and footboard placement. Once converted to a trike, that limited comfort becomes even more noticeable. A touring bike should be all about smooth, controlled distance. But the Voyager trike for many feels like more of a chore to ride than a joy. The price doesn't help either. With a new Voyager motorcycle already priced around $18,000, adding a high-quality trike conversion kit and professional installation can easily push the total cost above $30,000. That puts it in direct competition with Harley-Davidson's factory-built trikes, machines that come with built-in loyalty, better dealer support, and stronger resale value. And that's exactly why this trike is hard to sell. It's not that it's a bad machine, it's in the wrong lane. Cruiser buyers expect character, familiarity, and reputation. The Voyager trike may deliver power and comfort, but it lacks the soul that riders in this category crave. It had power and size, but couldn't win rider loyalty. The next trike? It came straight from the factory and still flopped. Number 4. Honda Goldwing Trike. It was meant to dominate the three-wheeled touring market. Massive, luxurious, and engineered to perfection. Built on a platform that symbolized long-distance comfort for decades, the Goldwing Trike checked every box. Top-tier features, legendary reliability, and unmatched ride quality. But once it gained that third wheel, things changed. The price skyrocketed, the handling lost its finesse, and the appeal narrowed. Despite its reputation, this trike became a showroom ghost. Too much machine for most riders and too niche to move. At the core of the Goldwing trike is an 1,832 cubic centimeter flat 6 engine. This powerhouse delivers 125 horsepower and 125 pound-feet of torque, giving it highway-crushing performance and smooth acceleration. The engine is paired with Honda's advanced electronics and a 5-speed overdrive transmission with reverse gear. On paper, it is exactly what long-haul riders want: effortless torque, quiet operation, and bulletproof reliability. But the trike conversion changes everything. Adding a third wheel through aftermarket kits like those from Lehman, Roadsmith, or California Sidecar transforms the handling, and not always for the better. The ride becomes wider, heavier, and more sluggish at low speeds. These trikes often tip the scales at close to 1,200 pounds, making them some of the heaviest motorcycles on the road. For casual riders or aging enthusiasts who thought they were buying confidence and stability, the reality is often a motorcycle that is hard to park, tricky to reverse, and too large to manage comfortably. The size also creates another issue: storage. While the Goldwing trike does offer large saddlebags and a top trunk, the overall bulk of the vehicle makes garage space and trailering more complicated. It's not something you easily tuck away at the end of a Sunday ride, and if you're not going on cross-country trips regularly, the size and weight become more of a burden than a benefit. Then there's the cost. A brand new Goldwing starts around $24,000. Once you add a high-quality trike conversion kit, typically costing between $10,000 and $15,000, you're looking at a total price tag near $40,000. That price level puts it in the same league as some fully loaded touring cars. Even for seasoned riders with deep pockets, the cost-to-value ratio becomes hard to justify. And while Honda's reputation for quality is rock solid, not all trike kits are created equal. Installation quality varies depending on the dealer or builder, and replacement parts for the trike hardware can be expensive and hard to find. That leads to concerns about long-term maintenance, especially for older riders who expect ease of use and durability without hassle. Another factor that turns off potential buyers is image. While Goldwing riders are fiercely loyal, the trike version often draws comparisons to retirement mobility scooters. Unfair perhaps, but a perception that hurts sales nonetheless. Riders who want presence, sound, and that old-school attitude tend to lean toward Harley-Davidson's Tri-Glide or Freewheeler instead. The Goldwing trike, despite its refinement, struggles to excite that same base. This was a luxury ride that checked almost every box: comfort, power, prestige, but in the end it became a showroom burden. It was just too much machine for too few riders. But now let's talk about something factory-built and flat-out confusing. Number 3. Yamaha Tricity 300. This machine was supposed to be the future of urban mobility, a leaning three-wheeler designed to give riders the agility of a motorcycle with the added confidence of 2 front wheels. The Tricity 300 came with promises of safer cornering, easier balance, and stress-free commuting. Yamaha aimed it squarely at city riders who wanted something more stable than a traditional scooter, but less intimidating than a full-size motorcycle. On paper, it sounded like a smart solution. In showrooms, it turned into a very different story. Under the seat is a 292 cubic centimeter single-cylinder engine that delivers 28 horsepower and 21 pound-feet of torque. That's adequate for stop-and-go city riding, but not enough to make highway speeds feel confident. Riders looking for a daily commuter found themselves frustrated with the sluggish throttle response and lack of torque when pulling away from lights or navigating hilly terrain. It's also worth noting that the Tricity 300 weighs in at nearly 570 pounds fully fueled. That's heavy for a scooter, and many beginners found the weight unwieldy despite its low 31-inch seat height. The price also raised eyebrows. At $8,499, this trike costs significantly more than traditional scooters with similar engine sizes. Buyers shopping in that price range often gravitate toward larger motorcycles with more power or traditional trikes with touring capability. For a machine that still operates like a scooter in most situations, that price tag felt out of touch, especially in a market where value matters more than novelty. One of the main selling points of the Tricity 300 was Yamaha's leaning multi-wheel technology. The dual front wheels lean together in turns, giving the rider a sensation similar to cornering on a motorcycle. It's stable in wet conditions and during sudden stops, but many riders said it felt artificial. Rather than increasing rider confidence, the front-end complexity introduced new learning curves. Parking and maneuvering at low speeds became a chore due to the wide front stance. What was marketed as stability came across as excess bulk in real-world riding. The styling didn't help its case. The Tricity 300 has a futuristic look with a tall windscreen, large fairings, and twin front forks that dominate the front profile. Some appreciated the tech-heavy design, but most traditional scooter buyers preferred simpler, cleaner lines. Meanwhile, cruiser riders and motorcycle fans never gave it a second glance. It landed in a design dead zone. Too large and odd for scooter enthusiasts, and too tame for motorcycle loyalists. Comfort is decent, with an upright seating position and good wind protection. Storage space under the seat fits a full-face helmet and a few extras. Yamaha also included features like traction control, ABS brakes, and a parking brake to help with the added complexity of a three-wheeled design. But those additions came at the cost of more weight, more moving parts, and a higher price, pushing it even further from its intended buyers. The Tricity 300 was a bold step into a niche that may never have existed. Yamaha saw a gap between scooters and motorcycles and tried to fill it with a trike that didn't fully satisfy either group. In markets like Europe, it saw limited adoption due to licensing benefits. But in the United States, it simply didn't stick. Modern and innovative, but no one's buying. The next one was supposed to redefine sport touring on 3 wheels. Number 2. Yamaha Niken GT. Bold, unconventional, and packed with innovation, this trike set out to flip the script on 3-wheeled motorcycles. With its dual front-wheel layout